You're listening to Music Mythology. My name is Sam Romo, and let's talk about some music.
That real sincere, version of it.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah, it's a great song. The only other song I would say that really competes with it for me is Dear Prudence, or like Happiness is a Warm Gun, and that one's up next actually. We can just move to that one now.
Sure.
But I think like McCartney and George were quoted saying it's one of their all-time favorite songs because it's just weird. It's just like the lyrics are like all over the place. Talking about mirrors on boots and soap creations and all sorts of, it's just weird. It's just John making up stuff. But the actual music of it is what they were saying was like, it's one of their all-time favorites because of it's got like two or three changes. Well, it's got two changes. So it's got like three parts to it that are totally different.
Right.
And it gets heavy, but then it gets like kind of old schoolish a little bit at the end, especially his singing style changes from like a heavier, I'm going down, and then at the very end he's just a little more raspy, a little more kind of like Janis Joplin stuff. But it's just very interesting. It's a very unique song because it's like three songs in one.
It is, and if if the Wikipedia page is to be believed,
always,
yeah, this is a hard hitting journalistic show citing Wiki, but. No, so Wikipedia will tell you that the lyrics were overtly sexual, and that it was a song about the physical love between him and Yoko, which is gross. And
I thought it was like he saw news. He had like news stories.
Yeah,
like at least the nonsense parts, like the man with the mirrors on his Hotmail boots.
Right.
It was like a real story in the news.
I think it is, but I think the chorus and the, I feel my finger on your trigger and that kind of stuff. And that's whoever wrote that Wiki article. Cause I don't remember. I've read and watched an awful lot about the Beatles. I just don't remember anything specific to this song other than the NRA headline.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that in Mother Superior is a reference to Yoko, because that's what he would call her.
Right.
Yeah.
And
if anything, that's the only thing that kind of ties that in to possible subtle sexual whatever.
But it is interesting. I've also heard that some people have said it was a drug song, but that's probably just from the I Need a Fix.
Yeah. Because that heavy downer feeling,
right,
or vibe, whatever. Yeah. But it's a very interesting song because it's got that heavy part, but then it's got that just good solid rock. It's interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. And then Martha, My Dear, about his favorite dog.
Yeah, one of my favorites. My wife's name is Martha, and the one bit of Beatles trivia she can have for you is that she knew that this was written about the dog. So it's an Old English sheepdog.
Yeah.
I went on a little wiki tangent about those dogs and learned nothing worth repeating. So. But what I did find interesting, it's like, they have an amazing record at the Westminster Kennel Club. I don't care.
I thought you were going to whip something out.
No,
they have an apt ability to be paired with musicians time and time again. We don't know why this happens, but they're only with musicians.
They can be trained to play scales on the piano.
Pro drummers.
No, you can ask Brad. Normally, I have some worthwhile tidbit on almost anything, and I read that entire sheepdog wiki and came away like that's 8 minutes I'm never going to get back.
A waste of time.
You're thorough.
Yeah. But one thing that is interesting about this song, I think, is that all of the non-orchestral parts of the song were Paul. Yeah, someone else obviously played the violins, and
I think he directed the orchestra.
He did. He arranged it.
There's pictures, I think, of him and his dog
holding a conductor's baton and stuff.
But that's also I think kind of the beginnings of his experience with that.
I agree
too, of engineering that and really composing stuff. Because in the 90s and I know in the early 2000s, he made full-on operas and stuff like that with people.
He did, and he scored a movie in the late, in like 69 or 70, I think.
He's done video game scores too.
But he had to learn how to actually read music to do that. It was during this time, I think, that he was actually learning how to read.
Yeah.
I mean, because,
and it was, like I mentioned, so with Ram, when he released Ram, I think the year later, he released an orchestra version of it.
Right.
But it was underneath a total other name. And then it didn't mention his name or Ram anywhere. And it was underneath Percival Thrillington. And it was just called Thrillington. And the whole album is Ram, but it's an orchestra version. No lyrics, just orchestra only. And to me, that because he already had the songs, he already had it fleshed out, but that must have been like a really interesting thing to where it's like George Martin isn't here. There's not, no one else is here. It's like you figured out the songs, but now we're going to work with you to translate it into this different composition.
Right.
And I'm sure that gave him a leg up again of understanding like, oh, that's how y'all work. Because if you go back to like Sgt. Pepper, when they put in the orchestra for like Day in the Life, they literally were just told them like, just play something and just go up the scale, just go crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
start at the lowest note and go to the highest one.
Yeah. Like, you want us to do what? Like what? But yeah, it continues to progress. But that's a beautiful song. I love that song.
I do, and some people apparently did not really care for it because it was another just kind of like saccharine sweet song that he wrote.
The granny music,
right? Yeah, the stupid granny shit, like John Lennon said. And but I like it a lot.
It's so good.
So I do too.
The piano. Like, the piano is so like high energy, and that was is it Nicky Hopkins? That was another artist I was going to mention. Is one of the only other artists that's on this album that normally isn't on a Beatles album.
Right.
He's a keyboardist who's played on tons of stuff, but he plays the keyboards for Revolution.
Right.
But he doesn't play the piano on Martha My Dear. I think that's Paul. But like that's beautiful, and then the orchestra, the strings, and everything behind it. It's very. It's almost like Chicago, that like that good. I don't know.
Yeah, like making a horn section work in a rock song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or a string section.
Full band sound. Quick side note: our printer at work has the same little beat as the like ding 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 ding.
Oh yeah, 25 or 6 to 4.
Yeah, I think you should sample that.
Yeah,
beat around it.
It's a classic like college basketball pep band song.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's a great song.
I went to every basketball game I could at A&M, and the first time out of each half was
the chorus.
But
all right.
Yeah, and then I'm So Tired.
Yeah.
Which
next one,
beside being accurate for me at this moment. Yeah, but it was so my favorite little tidbit about this song is that this is the Paul is Dead song. This is the song.
Oh, the end, the very end.
He, because he just kind of mumbles at the end. John Lennon does, and the rumor was that if you played the song backwards, the mumbling would say "Paul is dead."
Miss him, miss him, miss him, or something like that.
Yeah, and then of course the license plate on the Beetle, the Volkswagen Beetle on the front of Abbey Road is has some stupid crap.
And then Ringo and "Don't Pass Me By," and you were in a car crash and lost all your hair. Because Paul was in a car crash like years before. And that's when he died. This is fall.
But I gotta say, he's pushing 80. He looks great for a dead guy.
Oh yeah. Well, and they always got those out there. If it's true, the fake Paul has been more successful than the original Paul.
Yeah. He's looking better than real dead John is.
Still, very, very, very dead.
But I don't have it. I mean, we touched on "I'm So Tired," and I added most of what I know. Really, the only other thing I would want to talk about for that track is the progression of it. I love like the first like half, and John just kind of it seems almost like he's in a daze. He's hazy and he's talking. I mean, you get off that feeling of being tired, and then talking about how he's going to deal with it, and then the second time when he does it again in the same kind of timing, same kind of feeling, but then he starts yelling at the end.
Right.
I just love it because it's like such a good build up, such a good way to minimally build up in a song, that's not even like super intense, you know, it's just him just like kind of talking in a slow pace, and then he is already yelling, you know.
And then it reinforced. I mean, I'm sure y'all have had to deal with some stupid crap when you're tired and you yell at someone that you don't mean to. Well, you have every intention of yelling at them in the moment, but you know, that's what I like to think. I'd like to. I
yeah,
like
like
to think,
you guys are married. Haven't you guys done this before?
Oh yeah, I mean, but no, but I mean, in all seriousness, it's you know what it's like to be just you're beat and someone's like, "Hey, what's for dinner?" and you're like, "Figure it out for yourself." You know,
well, and again, fiery personality, and he wrote this when he was on a sober streak in the retreat, so I'm sure he had his frustrations,
a little agitated,
right out. Yeah, for sure. But that's a great song.
How long did that retreat last? The retreat, if I recall.
6 weeks.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, because Ringo left after 2 weeks because he has some sort of like a genetic digestive problem. He's been a vegetarian for so long. I don't think he actually cares. Well, I'm sure he cares about animals, but I don't think he's like Paul, where he's doing it as some sort of animal rights thing. I think it's like, oh yeah, if I eat meat, I'm on the toilet for 7 days.
Right.
So Ringo left first, and then Paul left a couple weeks after that. George and John almost made it the whole time. John left, and you know, this is foreshadowing to Sexy Sadie, but John left because he had heard rumors that the Maharishi was being inappropriate with some other guests, and was like, no, this guy's preaching peace and then doing that, and so he left. George, I believe, stuck it out.
Well, he left primarily when he heard that Maharishi had made some like advance on females in the camp.
Right.
It was just like a weird thing.
Classic. It's all those cults.
Classic
always,
cult. Yeah.
It always ends when the guy starts molesting people.
Yeah. When John Lennon, I mean, he'll hit a woman, but only if they're overage.
God.
He hit his first wife. You heard it. You didn't hear it here first, but you did hear it.
It's breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. John Lennon was a dick. First person to hold that opinion.
All right.
Then Blackbird.
This is kind of an interesting song because I mean the song's great, love the song, classic song, but I've always found it interesting that you got two different sides to it. You got the part where there's recounts of like Paul saw blackbirds in the retreat and just wrote about it as a kind of just a little ditty, just want to write a song, and then the other civil rights part of it. And like apparently that like he didn't talk about that till like in the 70s, or something like that.
It's suspicious, I think, because if you look at the promotional materials that accompanied the original release of the album. Okay. Now, granted, that's promotional stuff, and you don't. I mean, Paul is not an overtly political guy.
But you're talking about the guy that the first time someone asked him about LSD, he's like, "Oh yeah, I did it." You know, like it's like, you know, just
and you know, he eventually wrote "Give Ireland Back to the Irish" and all that. So eventually, I think he got a lot better about standing out on that ledge. But
for sure, and I'm not saying he was totally like.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Right.
But I don't know. To me, it always seems weird that there's kind of a gap, you know, and it just seems like I don't know. Maybe he's capitalizing on like that concept.
I don't know. Well, because, you know, he started not long after the album was released, but not immediately. You know, he started saying, oh, yeah, it's a reflection of the plight of African Americans and the civil rights movement in the American South. And then in like 2006, he was like, oh, yeah, it's about black women in the South dealing with the political upheaval.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I even saw him in concert was it last year? Year before last, I think. And he brought up where the concept came from, and he explains that in England we refer to women that, you know, we would call the girls as birds.
Birds.
And so it would be, you know, she's a young black bird, you know, is what I was talking about. And I'm like, it's interesting because I think him saying it at the concert was the first time I had heard of that. I just never, because I think I had read that was the recount, that he had seen them in the camp or the retreat, and just wrote about it. But I don't know, who knows, speculation. But it's a great song, beautiful song.
It's a beautiful song. I'll be honest, I could do without the bird sound effects.
I think they should just be a little lighter.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. is.
Yeah,
And
'cause
it-
I think
they're a little aggressive.
yeah, especially the break, whichever one breaks up
Right.
till the very end, little play out. That one's just like
Yeah, and
Should have had a different set of birds in the studio.
I don't know. It reminds me of the teacher on Charlie Brown a little bit. You know, womp, 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 womp. I mean, obviously they don't sound anything like that, but it's like a little distracting and a little assertive.
yeah.
But you know, what do I know, right?
Yeah.
Sucks. Paul McCartney doesn't know what he's doing.
Nothing.
Yeah. When he hears this, I hope he realizes that I'm right.
Can we get someone call ring him, phone him real quick?
Yeah, let's get them online. All right, next up, we got Piggies.
I have a real soft spot for this song, and it's not just because I tend to have very negative views of politicians. But I love the idea of this kind of Orwellian Animal Farm, political fat cats.
Was Animal Farm out?
Because
sure.
Animal Farm was published in the late 40s, early 50s, I think.
Yeah, that's curious. I wonder if that has any relation.
I mean, I would think it almost has to have
some kind of time.
I would think so.
Yeah.
But I love it. But, you know, this has another strong Manson family tie. Because
the pigs.
Yeah, what they need's a damn good whacking.
Which the only really thing I know about this song is he didn't come up with that line.
Right.
His mother, George Harrison's mom, gave him that to add to the song.
His mom.
And you know, and George had a pass, because if you listen to Taxman, I mean, he mentions two guys by name in Taxman, two politicians, the prime minister and the minister of the home secretary, whatever they call. I'm not well versed.
Prime minister.
Well, it's the prime minister, and then there was like what we would call a cabinet member. And because the top, now it's a progressive tax rate, just like it is here, but the top tax bracket in England when Taxman came out was 95%.
Oh wow!
So for every pound that you made over, 150,000 pounds a year or whatever, you only saw a nickel of that, or 5 pence. Sorry. And that's why he says, uh-oh, Mr. Wilson, uh-oh, Mr. Heath, and Taxman. And then, we're back at Piggies, and it's this kind of commentary where why are politicians held to a separate standard? They're out there making the rules and not abiding by them.
Or like what he says in the lyrics, wearing starch white shirts and then always having like another one to put on or something like that.
Yeah.
And like they get in the mud, but then I have another shirt I can slip right into.
Yeah. And luckily politics is perfect now, and that analogy is completely dead. But
yes.
I was waiting for the segue to.
Now that social media has solved everything.
Yeah. I mean, now we don't have
all of our problems are over.
All politicians are really just men and women of the people, and
There's
it's
no dilemma.
Everybody's transparent and honest. And
it is. Yeah. I can't imagine
now
someone
that we
doing
have
something
all the knowledge in the
doors.
world in our hands. Of course.
But yeah, Charles Manson took that "what they need's a damn good whacking," that lyric, and he thought that was going to be. He thought that was another call to political based violence and this upheaval of the system, whatever the system is to Charles Manson. Again, you don't want to. If you start thinking about why he did stuff, you'll go crazy because it's a fool's errand. Yeah. It's like. I mean, there's just whatever, and obviously, I would be willing to doubt that George's mother did not intend on Charles Manson taking that line seriously.
And no consultations there for sure.
And I mean, but I don't know. I don't know what Mrs. Harrison's leanings were.
Yeah,
probably still mad at Oliver Cromwell for something, but.
Jamie, look up who's Oliver Cromwell.
Yeah, I mean, he died in like 1680, so I doubt it was him.
Charles Manson's dead too, right?
Sure. Recently, though, right?
Yeah, I think so. I
don't know. Who cares if he is good riddance? I don't wish death on people, but I will absolutely celebrate the death of bad people.
He died in 2017.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's what recently.
Not soon enough.
All right. So next up, we got Rocky
Raccoon. Another song that I have a very, just a real soft spot for.
It's a great song.
It's
great
so much fun to sing to.
Yeah. Good little, if you want to call it like some kind of like Southern American fable.
Yeah.
Something.
I mean, it's a direct parody of kind of the country and folk scene that country folk rock stuff that was happening
with like a Western topic.
With a Western topic, talking about the black mining hills of Dakota.
Yeah, and I'm going to shoot them. And
it's got the cool.
Get that boy.
It's got that cool kind of strumming pattern on that 12-string guitar he plays. That's a little bit reminiscent of like Yesterday, a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a virtuoso, so I can't be like, oh yeah, he's using the Flobengurg technique.
But
did you see that movie, Ben? The Yesterday movie?
No, I didn't see Yesterday.
Yeah, I remember you said you had a problem with.
It's all right. I just feel like the story kind of gets wonky towards the end. If you haven't seen it, I
have not seen it.
You need to watch it just for the very end. The very end, if you're a big Beatles fan, it's worthwhile just for the very end.
Well, I have a real trouble with. I mean, like I watched the Across the Universe exactly once. I liked it. Never want to watch it again.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
same with this one.
Okay,
honestly,
that's good.
But with Rocky Raccoon. I mean, it's a classic. Again, when I was listening to this as a 12-year-old, whatever, those two songs that you've particularly pointed out too, Bungalow Bill and Rocky Raccoon, those two story songs were so like, it was just phenomenal to me. Like my young ear was just like, oh, this is great. And it's like, I can see it. I can see this guy. He got shot and this drunk doctor coming in and like, but the only thing I would add about Rocky Raccoon is I like how minimal it is. Cause like you're saying, it's got 12 string just strumming. And the only other thing that they add is when he shoots the gun, you just have a snare just come in and pow. And that represent the fire. And that really great kind of tinny honky tonk piano during and that was George Martin playing that. Nice. And I don't know why that's in there.
Well, I don't know why they had George Martin do it. I mean, I know they made those kind. I mean, it could have been something as simple as scheduling, of course. I mean, sure. You never know, but that just seems like something Paul would have done on his own. But it is George Martin. That is also I read was the last Beatles song. The last song that John Lennon ever recorded in which he played the harmonica. Oh, go figure, right? I mean,
for the Beatles, you mean?
No, the thing I said ever. Now that's some random internet thing.
But he plays it in Oh Yoko on Imagine.
Is that him?
I think
that's playing
so.
That?
I thought so. Yeah. I mean, if it's not, it's not a very hard part. No, I'm just saying because it's literally just like the outro is just like a blah, 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 like it's just kind of like a real fast like
it just
crazy climb.
A harmonica and C and just up and down on
it. I don't know. Maybe it was Spectre. Maybe it was Spectre at the end of the day. It's missing something.
Yeah. Let me go home and kill someone. I'll think on it.
I'll be threatening someone with my gun really fast.
Yeah, we talked a lot about a lot of murders this podcast.
Yeah. Well, let's keep it moving.
Don't pass me by.
This is Ringo's first fully written song, right?
First solo composition from Ringo,
and it like took him it was like a 4-year or something. Like literally, it's like something he was working on.
So he wrote lyrics, music, everything.
So, he wrote the music and lyrics. That's just fully him. And it's a pretty good song.
It is. I think it's one of the more kind of lasting kind of standard rock and roll songs on the album.
Yeah.
It's
almost like that. To me, this is the beginning because, he had like a really, I forget what it's called. It starts with a B, but he had a really successful country album. Ringo did. I think it was in like 72. I think it was his second solo album.
Okay.
And I feel like this is kind of like the beginning of that kind of subtle country rock feel.
I think so. And, this song was covered by the Georgia Satellites, who also sing a song called Keep Your Hands to Yourself. It was a minor radio hit. Well, I don't want to sing it, but we can listen to it later. But the Georgia Satellites it's hard to imagine, but they were from Georgia. And, they had this real twangy, that song, I got a little change in my pocket going jingle-langle. And it's kind of that. And if you can picture someone with that, like, sorry, Georgians, that real hick Georgia, it's not Atlanta, it's not Savannah, it's in the heart of like, hey, we're growing sweet onions in the back 40. It's that kind of accent, and you can picture that, in Macon, Georgia, and you can picture them singing this song, even if you've never heard it.
I love only you.
Right, exactly. I mean, it lends itself to country, and and Ringo had already covered that Buck Owens song "Act Naturally" for the Beatles,
right,
and so he was already kind of, I guess,
maybe that's his taste, because I don't know much about his.
Well, and
his
he doesn't have a fantastic vocal range.
Oh, for sure, but
country is a little bit narrower in that regard.
Well, you're right, but like all the other Beatles, I know like where their influences come from. I really don't know much of Ringo, so maybe his is more of a country.
And I do know he was a big fan of kind of Depression American blues. So Big Bill Brunsey, the like Blind Lemon Jefferson, kind of that era of American blues, which the blues, that era of blues is kind of the mother of the Nashville sound.
Right.
And so, to me, it tracks.
No, I really like it. When I first listened to it, it was kind of like, but it's one of those ones that when I listened to it again and I knew what to expect, like lyrically, I guess, and then I could kind of was trying to expect certain parts because I liked the way it was going. It just grew on me, I guess is what I'm really saying. It's because every time I'd listen to it, I'm like, and then this part's coming up next. I'm like, that's good. That's good. I like it. All right, Ringo, I get it.
But John and George were not part of the recording of this song, which is interesting to me. Ringo played the standard piano and the drums. Paul played everything else except, I believe, George Martin played the I think they call it a tack piano, and it's basically where you put a little piece of metal on the mallets, and so when it strikes the string, it gives kind of a tinny sound to it. And I did not know that before today. That is one of the very few things that I learned for the very first time today, is that John and George were not part of the recording of that song.
Interesting. Well, and then the next one, Why Don't We Do It in a Road? And that one's just Ringo and Paul, right?
Yeah, that's another one that John and George weren't there for.
Yeah, and that John did not like.
Yeah, and I like the song. I get where John's coming from, though.
Oh yeah, well it's in the same vein as Wild Honey Pie. It's like, okay, it's different, it's weird, but why?
Yeah, and it's a 12-bar blues, and it's not even a clever one. It's an EAB progression, which is a pretty standard blues progression.
But the only thing that keeps it unique for me is like the how it's tiered. Like you have like the clapping, and you're like, all right, what is this thing? And like and then it's Paul's solid voice, and then at the end, he gets high pitched and low. It shows his vocal range off a little bit. But that's basically it. That's it. It's just a bass riff over a drum, And then I'm pretty sure what I read before is that he got inspiration when on the retreat when he saw two monkeys just going at it in the middle of the road.
Yep. And
pretty simple.
There is nothing more fundamentally human than watching a couple of primates get it on in the road.
I always thought it'd be funny if if they did like a spoof on it after Let It Be and said, why don't we do it on the roof?
Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah,
that's an opportunity missed.
Yeah.
Reach out to my people.
Yeah, do it on the next concert.
Yeah, Paul, I can assure you that if you do that, I won't be there. So that, or I will be if you want to yell at me about jokes about your one-legged second wife.
Well, I remember I laughed really hard because I think he pointed it out that someone at the concert we saw him at, because he played at the Rangers ballpark.
Right.
Someone in the crowd, like at the front, they had a cardboard sign or something, and that's all it said on is, why don't we do it on the road? And it's like, you don't see that often, Yeah, that's a random one. And then you go to the complete opposite of like I Will, which is like this beautiful little love ballad. Like,
this is my wedding song. That's what we walked down the aisle to.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a beautiful song. And even that, like I just feel like, again, it's just like I feel like he's in that, just like George was channeling some intense feelings until all things must pass, because he, during that period they broke up, he was losing money, he got divorced, his mom dies, like all these heavy things. But then with Paul, it's almost like there's heavy stuff still, but for the most part, in his perspective, it's like things are going groovy.
Oh yeah.
And he's with this girl that's just like phenomenal. I'm running our own label, it's like we're running and gunning and it's going great. And I will just like, it just feels like it's like a songbird, you're just literally just like you're naturally just exuding what you feel, because all you can do is exude these like great feelings. And like I will just like, and Martha My Dear, both of those are in that same kind of wheelhouse of like, I'm so fucking happy.
Yeah.
And with I Will, the one little bit of trivia I have on this song that I like so much is so apparently they finished recording it and Paul thought that the bass sounded flat, and so then he hummed a bass line to mimic the actual bass line, and so it adds just that second layer of a rhythm track underneath it. And so but it is funny because if you look, I don't know, I'm looking at Sam's copy of the White Album, I don't know if yours has it, but on mine, the 1980 reissue, it actually credits Paul as the vocal bassist. It says he played the vocal bass on I Will.
Interesting.
Which is kind of, it's a little funny.
I need to look that up.
Yeah, but yeah, I do love that song. It's a great song.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. And then Julia, like what you said before, it's like the most like vulnerable kind of thing, because it's literally just him and his guitar.
Yeah, and I think not a controversial take here, but I think that the three kind of most vulnerable songs that John wrote during his tenure with the Beatles are Julia, In My Life, and Help. Help is an actual cry for help. Like, you listen to the lyrics, you're like, man, this song is kind of a bummer.
I would add one to that list, though. I would add,
and Don't Let Me Down, I think is in there a little bit too.
But to me, one of the most impactful songs of his, like perspective wise into him, is Hide Your Love.
Oh yeah.
On Help.
Yeah.
Because to me, the way he's talking about fame. He's talking about people not understanding him, but laughing at him, but because they're happy. But he's like, it's just such a weird feeling because he doesn't understand it. I just love that song because I feel like that's him coming to terms with fame.
Yeah. Gather round all you clowns.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In a genuine way. And then, but it's kind of funny because you go from like intense Julia and then the birthday, it's like hyper energy.
My best friend, Alan Combs, no shout out.
Family friend Alan.
My family friend Alan, his house had an intercom system in it, which I thought was very fancy. Yeah. And every year on his birthday, which was September 5th, his dad would blare birthday through the intercom system at like 5:30 in the morning. And I stayed over there a couple of times for birthdays, and it was, it's one way to wake up.
I remember when we were in high school, that was in a car commercial, I'm pretty sure.
Birthday?
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it's my family. Like we play it on everybody's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Me particularly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great song. The only thing I know about that song, like, let me see, like I can't remember the technical thing, but like that, whatever keyboard they're using, synthesizer, I can't remember what the actual instrument is, but that makes that crazy the sound effect. It's like that was like a new thing.
Was that like a Moog 2 or something?
Something I can't remember, but it was like that was kind of like cutting edge and just really like way out there. And the only other thing is, I think you mentioned it, Yoko and Patty being the bad thing in the background.
John, this is another thing that I found in that book that I had read. In an interview with Playboy in 1970, and again, for those of you listening, Playboy's a magazine that used to have naked pictures in it.
And articles, really good articles that were underrated.
It used to be found in the bathroom of every fraternity house in the United States.
Everyone's uncle's bathroom.
Yeah. And but John, in that interview, said that it was inspired by a song from 1958 called Happy Birthday Baby. I listened to it on YouTube today. to me, it sounds like any other rock and roll song from the late 50s. I mean, if someone was like, hey, yeah, Chuck Berry or Conway Twitty or a million other people wrote it, I would probably believe you.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it was just the concept of a birthday focused rock
I
song.
guess maybe that's all it was.
Maybe they found out the hard truth that the birthday song everybody sings is technically copyrighted. It's like, well, let's make our own.
But this it was written and recorded in the same day and was one of the last true 50-50 Lennon-McCartney
compositions.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was, they each contributed to the music. They each contributed to the lyrics. They were just screwing around in the studio well, I would say morning, but I don't think they ever got there before like noon. They were just messing around, and then they kind of got it down, and they recorded it later that day, and that's the mix that was on the album, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. A very high energy song. And then you get to some intense stuff. We go over Your Blues. It's a gnarly bluesy rock song.
And it's a song I love. I think it says a lot about the evolution of the Beatles and John Lennon specifically as songwriters. There are two things I want to say about this song. The first is, of all people, Elliott Smith has a very good cover of this.
Oh.
R.I.P. Yeah, R.I.P. in peace, Elliott Smith. And John Lennon was part of a supergroup is probably not the correct word.
Untelevised supergroup.
A televised one-off supergroup called the Dirty Mac, featuring John Lennon, Eric Clapton on lead guitar, Keith Richards on bass, and Mitch Mitchell from the Jimi Hendrix Experience on drums.
And Yoko on backup.
And Yoko is also there. And if you get on YouTube, you can find, it was actually a documentary that I think was part of a Rolling Stones thing.
Well, they were a part, it was going to be televised, I think, and then something happened and it was untelevised, but it was a Rolling Stones special called the Rolling Stone Rock Circus or something like that. Yeah. And
you can find the clip on YouTube.
Yeah. Playing it.
It's fantastic. Eric Clapton, good as ever. Mitch Mitchell, one of the truly underappreciated drummers of the era. And
Madman.
Keith Richards when he was only 67 years old.
But that's one of my favorite Lennon songs.
Oh, it's a great song.
It's got
great tune.
I think honestly, it might have my favorite lyric on the entire album. My father is of the earth, my mother was from the sky, and I am of the universe. And you know the reason why. Yeah, I love that line, man. That's such a like. When he wrote that, he's like,
this is good.
And it's fucking good.
And I do like for the break in the solo, Ringo switches from just a normal 4/4 to a shuffle. And I think that's a good, I don't know if that was a stylistic choice of his or if that was direction from John, but I think it's a good shuffle.
Well, I just love that banging beginning. That clamoring drums. Because it's just like such a, it's not just a good, maybe not traditional, but there's like a good blues framework, but just like that, it's an aggressive blues framework. You know what I mean? It's not just like Muddy Waters telling you a story. This is like Muddy Waters is pissed. It's like aggressive, and it's hard hitting, and it's almost like this one in Helter Skelter, and this like category of like this of harshness, of gnarly rock. But we're gonna come at it a little bit different, but we're still using foundations that we know. But I just love that song. It's such a hard hitting.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Muddy Waters. Around this time, I believe 68, 69, Muddy Waters came out with an album called Electric Mud. And it was, I mean, Muddy Waters is kind of a pioneer of electric blues. But it was always kind of that typical, it was not as in your face as a lot of blues would turn out to be, in the second, or I guess third or fourth generation with Freddie King and Albert King, and then eventually Stevie Ray Vaughan, where it was real. Yeah. But Electric Mud, if you listen to that album, that Muddy Waters album, it sounds like Your Blues. The whole album does. It's very cool, and
I'm gonna add it right now.
yeah, it's a great album. By the way, if you ever happen to find it on vinyl, let me know. I've been searching. I think they only printed like 20 or 30,000 copies and have not done any reissues or anything that I know of.
Interesting.
But yeah, great song, Electric Mud, and After the Rain. That was the other Muddy Waters album that was kind of a continuation of Electric Mud. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Muddy Waters podcast.
Well, it goes everywhere. Yeah. I need to check that out. I've never listened to that album before.
They're great. But then from Your Blues, you have a complete stylistic shift to Mother Nature's Son.
Yeah, for sure. Now, this was another composition out of India, right?
It was. And I think this is one of the Paul songs that's pretty superficial, and not in a negative way. I just mean there's not much deeper meaning.
Well, I thought some of this stemmed from lessons.
I think what it was is there was a lecture that Maharishi was giving about, part of part of the goal of the transcendental meditation,
like appreciating nature and
is becoming one with nature and realizing that we're all children of Mother Gaia, Gaia, or however they say it.
Yeah, true. And also, again, because this song is also very Ram parallelish, so I just feel like this is him, and maybe that's the difference. Because there's a lot of that perception of like hippy dippy people that are like, I just want to get away from it all and just want to go out to the country. Well, I think literally Paul was like in the cities, in every city. He was the big celebrity, and so even to a normal person that like falls in love with the idea of just getting away, and I want to go to the country or go to the forest, whatever. But this dude was like, I can't get away from it ever. I'm always stuck in this world. But then if I get away to the country, like with Ram, or McCartney riding on his farm and house and getting away from it all, it's just like, I just feel like it starts to feed into that type of thinking of like, I don't need to be in the life to make a living. I can come from different sources. I can do different things, and that might come from nature. That might just be experiencing life in a different perspective from the country or whatever.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a great song.
It is. It's a great song. It's a simple song. That was another one, though. Just as a quick mention, it was a complete Paul solo effort. No other Beatles on the track.
Yeah, it's nuts how much stuff they really like knocked out of their own when they were on that retreat, pumping that shit out.
It is, and it's especially Paul and George. John, of course, wrote by himself, but I mean, as far as I know, Julia might be the only song he did with the Beatles where he recorded it all by himself.
Yeah, I think so.
Whereas Paul was, he was kind of like, well, if Ringo's going to be late, I'll play drums. What's that? George is in the can. Okay, I'll take the solo.
Yeah, right.
But
I know I want to like watch Paul play drums now to see how I doubt there's any footage or
he plays right-handed.
I guess I can listen.
I believe because he sits. I'm looking at Sam's kit and it's set up for a right-handed person.
Just like you, Mr. Ambidextrous.
No, I play drums left-handed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I guess still you write everything else.
Oh yeah, but Paul does everything left-handed except apparently play drums.
Yeah, I'm ambidextrous. Like in sports, like I play pool. Like I'm right-handed, but I play pool left-handed. I bat left-handed. And like it's weird.
Yeah, I bat left-handed also and swing left-handed.
I bat left-handed. It doesn't make much of a difference. Though.
Yeah, it's bad swinger.
It's a 200 hitter left-handed, 190 right-handed.
But it's good to be a switch hitter. So you can mess with the pitcher.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right, why are we on baseball? All right, next up. Everybody's got something to hide except me and my monkey. What a long
10 words.
Yeah,
it's like too long.
That's a great song though.
It is.
It's almost like I don't know. I'm trying to parallel it to another act, like almost like more like Rolling Stonesy, almost. Like the cowbell and the loud ride, or no, it's not, maybe it's the top of the ride that they're hearing that real clanky like ding 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 ding.
It sounds like it's the bell on the ride.
Yeah,
and. Yeah, I agree. It almost, I was trying to think. I had it, but you're right. It doesn't really sound like a Beatles song. It sounds like a different, like, I mean, not quite T-Rex because they were more of a 70s band anyway, but it does sound like.
Well, almost. I mean, because like I know what you mean, but like Mark Bolan stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was like it's high energy, weird like changes and like intense like guitar right in your face, you know, sometimes. But like with this one, it's I love the lyrics too. This is another one of my favorite lyrics from this album. Is when you're inside. Wait, what does he say? Your outside is in when your inside is out.
Right.
And there's another line. Here, I'm gonna look it up.
Well, this song was in that same interview with Playboy in 1970. John said that this song was about his and Yoko's relationship, and I'm quoting here. Everybody seemed to be paranoid except us two, because they were very much in love, and they saw it as, you know, everyone was hiding something except for he and Yoko. So I guess Yoko is.
Yeah, well, and you're shown that with Two Virgins.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
we ain't got nothing to hide. Look at this album cover.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, John and Yoko's first work together was an album called Two Virgins, which is a very avant-garde soundscape album. And the front cover was literally just them completely nude.
It had to be sold with a brown paper sack around it because, I mean,
with only two cutouts of their faces.
Gosh.
So you could just see
that's the one when that John's real curled up, or is that just a picture?
No, that was the later one.
That's the later one.
I mean, they're seriously holding hands.
They're just standing there
straight up.
And then on the back cover, it's the back side of them.
Yeah, good thing we ate earlier, because thinking of Yoko naked. make you chuck up your food.
But they definitely didn't have anything to hide.
I love that image, though. I just want to be bare. This is us. Just here's what we are.
It's like him coming to terms with his stardom in another way. It's like, well, now I can use it for something, I guess. But just real quick, one of my favorite parts of the song is the very end, as it's starting to unwind and finish up. I love the bound, and then they just like keep picking it up. Like I love that, the weird funky breakdown, and then the very end. Or I guess what I'm talking about is the main song. But now what I want to talk about is towards the end when the Paul's part on the bass is the boom 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 boom. Right. It's so high energy. Like I think this song, outside of Obla Di Obla Da, because that's a different kind of energy. That's like a happy high energy. This song's like, I ain't got nothing to hide. I'm just going. You know, I'm just fantastic. And like every part of the song is fantastic. The drums are fast and funky. The bass is like in your face and you're just like going nuts. Like the guitar is like in your face the whole damn time. You know, it's on fire.
It is. It's great. It's great. I mean, well executed. If someone hasn't told them that they're pretty good musicians, they really should.
Someone should really give these guys a high five.
I'm glad we're bringing awareness to the band through this. By the way.
This is the Beatles.
This is going to catapult their careers.
Pretty soon, Paul McCartney will be a household name.
And then next up, we got we've touched on it a few times, but it's Sexy Sadie. That's one of my favorite ones. Again, the main thing that I know about this one is it was a dig at Maharishi that he wrote, I think, post him leaving the retreat and just being frustrated with what John had found out. And if you look at the syllables of Sexy Sadie, it lines up with Maharishi.
Right.
And then they would go on to take another jab at him by making him the Nowhere Man and the Yellow Submarine, and even mimicking his high-pitched voice and the character, and naming the character Boob as his technical name.
And apparently it made it basically to the studio with the working title of Maharishi.
Oh, wow.
And it was changed at George's request.
Harrison.
Yes, and in a moment, what appears to be a rare moment of band harmony. John said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do that," because George And by the way, in the Maharishi's defense, one of the things that led to this song being written is John had heard that the Maharishi was being inappropriate with some of the female guests there, and that was later proved to be unfounded.
Oh.
They have, I say that, I guess in this kind of ethereal sense, no one will ever know, but, it was investigated by someone, and it was found to not be true. And the Maharishi went on to continue his career. A lot of very high name or high profile people have studied transcendental meditation through him. Jerry Seinfeld took a Maharishi class. And Jerry Seinfeld was like 10 years old when this album came out. So, but yeah, so George asked John to change it. Harrison asked John to change it from Maharishi to Sexy Sadie, which John did. And, the Beatles recovered and we're happy, and we're still making records today because of that. But yeah, and I will, one other little piece of trivia. I guess this is, I lied earlier. So this was the second thing that I learned for the very first time today. The piano riff at the very beginning that starts the song inspired Tom York and the rest of Radiohead in writing the melody to Karma Police. Brad's favorite song.
I like some Radiohead, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then my personal favorite off of the album is up next, Helter Skelter.
Helter Skelter.
It's a hard hitting, in your face, wake you up. Talk about going down a slide.
And here's the quote, and I apologize for not having the website handy for a full citation, but here's the quote that I got. Charles Manson thought that this song was a message of a coming war in which racist white people and non-racist white people would destroy each other over their treatment of minorities.
And that brings us to 2020.
That's so interesting. Where does that come from?
It is a
it's like he liked the Beatles. He wanted to cause chaos, and he just was like, how can I link these two?
Yeah, well, that's probably it. It's probably maybe his weird mind of itself, but then seeing that this is a pretty much wholesome major cultural influence that I can lean on and say, see, look,
yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah. But the song is still just so heavily associated with Charles. There was a book called Helter Skelter about it. There was a TV movie about it. Mm-hmm. There was a docu-series on.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Paul had only extracted that name or that text from an old poem, like some kind of old English, like poem, something. And he just thought it was an interesting term.
Yeah. It rolls off the tongue well.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? So like some nonsensical, just, oh yeah, that sounds cool. And then that leads to like, it's in pop culture everywhere in the 60s.
And this song, the only other thing I can think of to mention is I like, if you listen to the Ultimate Edition and you hear the outtakes and the different versions, you realize, again, you get kind of insight into how they developed some of these fast-paced rock songs. We're like, wow, did it just come out of them, or did someone just know that riff? But this one and Revolution have the same trajectory of development, where you have Revolution, the single, and then Revolution 1 being this more like on the do a little like slow version of it, and then Revolution is like wow, right in your face. And same thing with Helter Skelter. If you listen to the I think second or 14th whatever version, it's slow. I think it's like take 2 or version 2 is like it's a 14-minute or 12-minute long version of it. Yeah, and it's just
when you get to the bottom and to the top. And you
just hear them kind of like mumble it out, and then the next version they've picked up the tempo a little bit, and I'm like, okay, and then you get to the finale, and it's just it's like it's crazy, and it's just it's like I think it was on the Gabriel Parker guy I interviewed last week. I think he said that if you didn't know the Beatles, or if you knew some of the Beatles but you never heard this song, you didn't know about this song, and then someone just played it for you, and immediately. And you ask them like, who is this? It's like probably one of the last people you would try and think of and be like, oh, it's the Beatles. But it's just, it's just so high energy and just such an intense song. I loved it. And I'm fortunate enough I've been able to see McCartney perform it twice live. And it's just religious for me because it's just amazing just because it's just like, I just love it. It's such a banging, loud, well done, high energy rock song that just for me I'll never turn away from it. I'll never be like, no, not today.
And like Brad was saying earlier, it is widely considered, if not the genesis of heavy metal, certainly one of the beginnings. In
the best genre in music, by the way.
And a lot of people think, well, what about Zeppelin and that kind of thing. But the thing you got to remember with Zeppelins in particular, and a lot of the guys who were kind of heavier in that area, is they were 100% of them were blues based.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, every single one. I mean,
any like hard hitting drummer was like jazz based.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you listen to, and I love Led Zeppelin, I really do. But a lot of their early album, with the exception of Good Times, Bad Times, which is its own. I mean, we could have a whole podcast just on that song. But the rest of it is very, very, very traditional blues stuff, just played louder. This song is not a blues progression. It's got that power chord sequence at the beginning that's just hammering on those three chords. And it eventually gave birth to bands that kind of kept that hard rock without being blues based. And I always think of Jethro Tull, who, by the way, won the first ever Grammy for heavy metal. They beat out Metallica, believe it or not. Go figure.
It's because the plastic drumsticks they lost.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. But yeah, it was 1979, I think, whenever.
Now, I'll ask you this. What part of the song makes it the precursor?
Well, I mean, I think from one thing, the very beginning with the power chords, that's being played behind, though, when you get to the bottom, you go back to the top. The drumming, super aggressive. It famously has Ringo saying, "I got blisters on my fingers" at the end of it.
I think that also plays into the feeling of it being heavy. It's like his fingers are fucked up. They played it that hard. Oh my god!
I agree, and there's an urgency in Paul's voice through. It's not he's not screaming, but he's urgent. It's the same voice you would use to say, "Please file in an orderly fashion to the exits to avoid getting burned alive."
Well, until the end. And I think that's when he starts screeching and wailing. Right. That's when you get away from like a Janis Joplin kind of like, I'm going to finesse this wailing to be a part of it's like my style, to being like, I'm screaming here. And who knows, maybe that came from a little bit of Yoko. Maybe Yoko's screaming art style, because I know that influenced John, him being a little more like aggressive, being open to yelling and wailing in his own songs, like Well, that song off of the Plastic Yoko album, like that one's a Yoko band. That's band, my bad. That one's like, that's intense, and like that one builds up, and by the end of it, the dude's just yelling, he's just going nuts. But this song, I feel like that's for sure it. It's like the power chord at the beginning, but then the wailing, like you're not wailing with stylistic really, you're wailing like you're just pushing it out. You're just radiating this feeling or whatever. It's a very interesting song and beginning of that, because it's same like with like some people call it like Neil Young, like the godfather of grunge. And like if you look at the effects he used, the timing, the topics he would use, or if you look at like Russ Live or Russ Never Sleeps, like Hey Hey My, or no, My Hey Hey, the heavier version of it,
the closer,
super distorted, crazy, like intense, but it's a little like it's different. It's in your face, but in a different way. But this one, it's in your face because he's yelling at you, and you got this wailing guitar, and like you said, these just gnarly drums in the background. It's just a crazy song.
If you ever do one of these on Russ Never Sleeps, invite me back.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because I got some opinions.
That's a great album.
Oh, it really is.
And then next up, we have Long, Long, Long by Harrison. It's a great song about God, basically.
It is. And I do like, because George, throughout the remainder of his career, would say that this was a song kind of addressed to a higher being, a deity. But, if you really strip down the lyrics, I think it serves as kind of a traditional love. So there's a lot of themes that are in of a traditional love song. And, that kind of became a staple of George's music immediately after the Beatles too. So I mean, again, it's not a controversial take.
That's the only thing I was really going to say about this album. Is the only thing is you could throw this on All Things Must Pass, and I wouldn't notice. If this was never on the White Album, I'd be like, yeah, this should be here.
Yeah, and in Bob Spitz's book on the Beatles, see, look, I do have an actual source to give to one of these things. In Bob Spitz's books, in book on the Beatles, which is cleverly called The Beatles, which is what this album's called too. It says that George had told someone that had long, long, long not been picked up for this album, it would have been side one, track one on All Things Must Pass.
Oh wow!
So
nice.
kind of a neat connection to all that.
Huh? Yeah. But yeah, that's a very unique song. I love that song. It's almost like he heard "I'm So Tired" and it was like, I like that. But I'm gonna make it about God. Classic Harrison.
But you're right, and he does a bang up job with it.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful. It is. It's a beautiful song. It's an I think it's an underappreciated song for George in general, for the Beatles especially, but for this album specifically. I mean, it really it's a much better song than it gets treated like.
Absolutely. The only thing I would ever change about it is the outro.
Yeah,
and I know it's weird and it's unexpected. That's why I threw it in there. So it ends with like this weird clamoring, like high pitch, like wah, like note and like this like craziness, and it only comes from the organ that they're playing on. I think it was Paul was playing it on. Someone put a Coke bottle on top of the organ, and when they would hit like a really I guess it's a high tone because it's that noise you hear in the background. It would like make the casing of it shake, and so it would rattle and make this weird noise. Like, that noise is crazy. Let's add it to the end. I don't know. I find it this.
It's incredible. And my favorite part about that story is that when you tell that story, everyone's like, oh yeah, I can see that. I mean, like, there's nothing surprising about it, right? Yeah. Like, you're like, oh, did you know there was a Coke bottle and that's what was making the stupid noise? And you're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. It was just something I've always appreciated about it.
Yeah, that's a great track. And then next up is Revolution 1, which is
my favorite of the 3 revolutions, if we're going to throw Revolution 9 in there.
Sure.
But I like this one better than the single. It's slower. This is another kind of no nonsense song from John, though. I mean, it's about social change and standing
France
up,
right? Yeah.
France and China even.
China.
I mean, because John. Politically, I'm sure he would line up left of center, but he was not a communist, and he knew that Mao Zedong was. I think mildly, I would say you might say he was behaving poorly. I don't know how many million people you have to kill before you're not considered to be behaving poorly, but behaving abhorrently. I think Mao probably reached that level.
Did y'all, real quick, 2-second side piece, did y'all watch the Tyson fight? Roy Jones, the most recent one.
I just watched the highlight.
Oh, because I noticed for the first time ever.
Oh, his tattoo?
Yes.
Yeah, he has a Mao tattoo.
He has a Mao Zedong tattoo on his stomach, right above his boxer line.
It's like right there.
I mean,
no,
you're talking about.
No. I think it's Che Guevara actually.
Equally stupid.
Yeah, no, I think it's Mao.
It's a Mao. No, he has a Mao one on his arm. And Che Guevara is the one down here.
Okay, yeah, but so no, I know he definitely has a tattoo though. I don't know.
Is it the same social justice warrior Che Guevara that murdered gay people for being gay?
Also known on Hot Topic shirts throughout the country. Yeah. But yeah, he had a Che Guevara tattoo. I thought, whoa, what a weird reason to get.
Look, in his best day, Mike Tyson had a double-digit IQ, and he's been taking hits to the head since 1985. I'm not looking to him to guidance for anything.
Yeah, no. I just struck me as when I saw pictures of it, I thought, why the hell did he get a Che Guevara tattoo above his crotch?
Just Mal alone.
He has a Mal one too on his arm.
I know. That one specifically, because I didn't see the Che one first. I saw that one first. And I was like, what?
I hope the tattoo is complete. It's like a big portrait of Mal that's being carried on a car through Red Square.
Oh no, it's like just his face. But what did Mike Tyson square? What did he read where he thought, let's get it?
He doesn't know how to read. You've heard him talk.
Yeah. What's going on?
What did he read? He read The Little Engine That Could, and it taxed his brain too much.
But for Revolution though, I don't have too much on this one. Just my own personal preferences. That I think I like the single more. I just like that.
But it's a little, it's rockier. It's in your face. I mean, it's more polished. I mean, and it has its merits. It's the one that comes on the radio. I like it.
Well, it's more like almost like palpable to the energy you would expect behind someone that's a revolutionary. You know what I mean? It's not a.
That is true.
Oh, let's go do some revolution. It's like no. Let's go.
That's true. Revolution 1, 100% sounds like the first time it was sung was around a campfire.
Right.
So I'll give you that for sure. The single sounds it tracks more with the message.
Right.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's a classic. And then Honey Pie. I mean, we've really broken this one down. I don't have too much to add.
Just a pure tribute to, again, what the English would call music hall, what we would call vaudeville.
Yeah.
A lot of clanky,
and something that Paul never left.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, he did it. I mean, stuff that, like When I'm 64 fits into that, and other stuff with the Beatles, but Into Wings, he would do that constantly. Like, are you a Wings guy?
I can kind of take or leave Wings.
Oh man.
I mean, I like Wings. Mm-hmm. I very rarely seek out Wings.
Okay.
But if it's on, I listen to it.
You know, Venus and Mars pretty well.
Oh yeah.
Well, I love that album. That's my favorite Wings album. Like on that album, there's You Gave Me the Answer.
Yeah,
and it's
a good track.
Right, and it's right in same line, same vein, and I just feel like that's, again, like we've said, it's Paul's appreciation for the music he grew up with and what his dad played and stuff like that. I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's something that if you saw men in like peppermint striped jackets and holding boater hats,
you wouldn't
singing
be surprised.
it. So yeah, I mean, it's a great style. I think it's something to pay attention to, and I do believe in having kind of a very eclectic view on things, and I think that people should listen to more music from that era. Not to like it, I mean, but if you can hear the morph, and it's kind of, I don't know if you watched any of the Ken Burns like jazz and country music, those documentaries, but
no,
it's great because it shows how 100 years ago there were two types of music in the Western world.
Yeah, right.
And then now it's, I mean, people argue all the time, well, I don't know, is it techno or is it more trance jazz, or and it's like, and I don't know why I picked EDM. That's the thing I know the least about. That was a bad take for me. but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean though. Yeah.
Now there are so many genres and subgenres and sub-genres.
And then in a different like flow of things, the next track, Savoy Truffle, and that's an interesting song because it almost sounds like it's from the 70s, not exactly the 60s,
right?
With the sassy saxophone in the background. I mean, that's much more of a 70s feel.
That's a 1974 saxophone and horn section on a 1968 song.
Yeah, and it's just a very like, I don't know, it's just like it's got an interesting vibe to it. Because I mean, I know the whole song was written kind of out of jest, like out of like kind of like poking fun at Clapton, because Harrison knew Clapton had a
very severe sweet tooth.
Yeah, and he would eat constantly, and so all the things that he lists are like real desserts. Like apparently you could get in an assortment box in the UK, and so he's literally just reading off the shit that Eric Clapton would overindulge in and get cavities from.
It would be like someone in the US taking a Russell Stover's thing and just reading what's in there.
Literally. But the vibe of it is like, it's such a, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a cool vibe.
It's a great driving song.
Yeah, like literally, like it's just like the drums are simple, but you got that piano, that keyboard, those keys in the background, the dun, 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 like it's just like it just got this energy to it that just seems so like, I don't know, it's like, it's not funk where you're like, you want to get to a groove, you're just like, man, I can just feel this thing just flowing. Like it's just like an interesting song. I don't know, it's so unique.
In Clapton's autobiography, which is pretty good if you haven't read it, there's two things, and I'll get to one that is Brad's favorite thing that I know about Eric Clapton. But yeah, he was talking about how he had just an addictive personality because, eventually he had issues with cocaine and heroin, but
he did cocaine. The guy with the hit cocaine.
Hey, to be fair, J.J. Cale wrote that song, but big shocker though, right? And now he's tried to say, no, that's a warning. Like you shouldn't use cocaine. Yeah, right, dude. You were at Studio 54 just. But no, he said it started when he was a kid, and he would just eat chocolates. He would steal chocolates from his family and just pound them.
Glutton.
Yeah, and it turned into this running joke with George Harrison, who he was so close to, and Harrison would say, you'd walk into Clapton's house and you would just see empty candy wrappers and chocolate boxes.
Wow.
Yeah, and then like an eighth of heroin. Or however they measure heroin, I don't know. But it's just kind of crazy. The other thing that's in that book that is in no way, shape, or form related to this is that Eric Clapton said that Phil Collins,
I've told him this,
did more cocaine than any human he'd ever seen in his life.
Isn't that funny?
And I just love that so much.
Yeah,
I
can't think of Phil now without.
No, I can't either. I mean, listen to "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" Just thinking about some dude blowing rails in a disco bathroom.
And it's always funny to hear someone who is like notorious for doing a lot of coke saying someone else has done the most coke they've ever seen, which means it was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, Collins was like at his height in the 80s, so it makes sense.
Left-handed drummer, to bring that back.
That's another good one. I read something to him on Wiki Friday that was really funny, that Noel Gallagher, he was on Phil Collins' Wiki page, since we can go back to the official podcast source of all information, Wiki, that Noel Gallagher said, just because you're like make good songs doesn't mean you're talented, and just because you're big on the charts and make good songs that are popular doesn't mean you're talented. And he's like, look at Phil Collins.
And Phil Collins was like, I'm gonna sue you.
Yeah.
Sue you.
Yeah, that song sucks.
But it'll get stuck in your head.
It will. I'm gonna really annoy my wife tonight more than normal.
More than the other ways I do.
Right.
Hey-o.
And then next up we got "Cry Baby Cry." That's an interesting song. That's kind of an odd one.
It is, and I was looking in a different book, and it may have been the John Lennon solo one. I'm blanking on the author, and I apologize for that. But that said that the words were based on the old nursery rhyme, "Sing a Song of Sixpence," which is I didn't even look up the words to that nursery rhyme before I came here because I haven't heard it in forever.
Yeah,
but
I think I remember reading somewhere that it wasn't necessarily that. I think there was a commercial on that was using an old fairy tale or whatever, and then that's where he kind of was like, "Oh, I haven't heard that in a song before."
I'll be honest, my favorite part of this song is the "Can You Take Me Back" that Paul does at the end.
Okay, like literally, that's what I was gonna say. That's all I really have to mention about this song. It's an interesting song because he talks about just the content seems kind of all over the place of what like the plans that he's explaining, like a seance in the garden. Like it's just like random kind of stuff that I think just sounds good. Him playing with words. But yeah, for some reason, man, the part that resonates with me the most though is the very end. It wraps up and you get this random McCartney coming in. Like, "Can you take me back where I came from? Can you take me back?" And then I love how if you listen to the Ultimate Edition, there's it's just just talking about, it's just called, I think, Take Me Back. And it's just
Right.
like 2 minutes long of him just saying that in different like tones and different manners, cadences. And then like you find it at the very end, you just hear like, Take Me Back. And then they just threw it at the end.
So what I read about that is that McCartney just started doing that while he was recording I Will.
Oh.
And he was waiting on someone to get there. And I wish I had more information, but what I was reading was pretty unclear.
Off the cuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if he was waiting on a sound engineer or if he was waiting on George Harrison.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just something, and he liked it, and George Martin liked it, which I think was probably the more important factor. And they decided to throw it on the end of.
Yeah. Well, that's why I kind of call Cry Baby Cry an odd song, because like the lyrics are just a little, I don't know, it makes sense, but it's just kind of like doesn't really go anywhere. And then it ends with that random, like, not B-roll, but just they added a little outro thing.
Yeah.
And it just feels like compilation work. Like, well, we like these things, but we don't really know what to make of it, so we'll throw them together and just throw them at the end.
And really, that's a little bit of foreshadowing to side 2 of Abbey Road, because, you know, those medleys, they were all just partial songs that they had. You know, Polythene Pam and Sun King, and She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, and Mean Mr. Mustard.
Yeah.
You know, and that was, I don't know if that was the Beatles themselves or if that was George Martin's idea to put them all together, but I get kind of a similar vibe from this setup here on this album. So.
Yeah. And then next up we have the
Number 9.
Yes.
Number 9.
Revolution 9.
Number 9. Damn.
Revolution 9. 8 minutes, 22 seconds. Technically the longest song that the Beatles ever released on an album.
Yeah.
It was
Technically the weirdest song they've ever.
yeah, objectively the weirdest song. So apparently there were 2 cuts of I Want You, She's So Heavy and Hey Jude that ran at over 9 minutes that they eventually cut down to the lengths that they are now. So Revolution 9 made it as the longest one.
I think originally, and the reason why they're titled Revolution 1 and Revolution 9 was because they were on the same track originally.
Right.
And then they were like, nah, that's too weird. We got to split these up.
And 9 is John Lennon's favorite number. He got, I don't know if he got into actual numerology or if he just had a thing, but his birthday was October 9th. He had this whole thing with the number 9.
Like Jay-Z with number 4.
I think so. Yeah.
It's because Slipknot has 9 members. That's why John liked it so much.
Great Larry Bird jersey,
Wow.
33.
Had the amazing foresight into the future. Well, I don't really have too much to say or add about that song.
Yeah, Paul and Ringo weren't involved. George was kind of involved, but it was the vast majority of it was John and Yoko just doing John and Yoko things.
Yeah, which I mean, this is a precursor to, or no, I guess did 2 versions come out before this? I think it did.
It might have, actually.
I think it technically came out before it. So yeah, I think it was just in line with that promotion, or you know, just showing what else we're doing.
Yeah, and you know, Yoko Ono, one of her art pieces, because she was an artist.
Whoa. Let me just stop you right there, buddy.
But, you know, she had one piece where she would get into, I always picture it like a sleeping bag, and I hope that was true, but she would get into
like a big bag
and like move around and yell. And people paid hard-earned money to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's the line that they talk about in the Ballad of John and Yoko, right? The eating cake in a
eating chocolate cake in a bag.
Yeah.
And I think
Bagism is what they would call
Bagism, yeah. And then they were also undergoing scream therapy around this time, which was it's a form of therapy where you go in and you meet with your therapist, and your therapist says, what's on your mind? And you tell them, and they say, okay, I'm going to stand in the corner. You just start making noise as loud and as aggressively as you can, and then you scream into the void, and it's supposed to be cathartic or whatever. John Lennon and Yoko were both practitioners of it for a while, and I don't know if that was around this time. I think it was, but it was just a big amalgamation of weirdness from several different angles, and it is an 8-minute, 22-song avant-garde expression of whatever.
Yeah, in short, Yoko sucks.
You heard it here first. We have negative opinions of Yoko Ono.
There's a clip I used to love watching on YouTube where it's like them playing something, and it's Chuck Berry and John Lennon.
Yeah.
And Yoko starts. You showed me that.
Yeah, I showed you
And,
that.
and Yoko starts screaming, and you could literally see Chuck Berry's eyes get big, and he's like,
well, because it literally, she wasn't expected to sing at all. She was playing the either a tambourine or a little
tambourine.
Yeah.
And she just overtakes everything.
Yeah, so there's a tiny, a low seated like mic stand, and she's just like hitting it, and all of a sudden like they start to get in their groove, and then you see her just like put it underneath her arm, grab that mic.
You just hear a shrill, and literally Chuck Berry's like,
he just like turns and he looks, and then you see John's like eyes get big, and then all of a sudden her mic just shuts off because it cut her off.
Yeah. Well, and Chuck Berry was like notorious for being very particular. He threw Keith Richards out of a promotional video they were doing.
Wow.
Keith Richards was trying to play that first part of Johnny Be Good with Chuck Berry, and Keith Richards was doing something where he was like missing a hammer on or something like that, and Chuck Berry stopped him like 8 times. You go, no man, it's here. You go 12 and 13 or whatever it was, and he couldn't get it, and Chuck Berry said, get out of here, you're not gonna ruin my song, and threw Keith Richards out. And at that time the Rolling Stones were the highest grossing touring band in the world, and Chuck Berry was putting cameras in women's bathrooms. That is a real thing he did.
Yeah, he did. Honest, yeah. He got
real
busted
thing.
for that. Yeah,
He did.
that's also on his wiki, like on the
That is a real thing that
section.
happened. That's not even me making some like glib joke about it. That's a real thing.
He got busted for it, and it kind of tainted his legacy a little bit.
Taints of torturous awards there.
Thanks.
Ruined his legacy a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of just scratched it a little.
Well, Back to the Future saves Johnny Be Good. So
It really does.
Yeah.
I like the Marty McFly edition. Yeah, and then we get to Good Night.
Good Night.
The Lullaby, sung by Ringo.
Written by
John.
Oh, by John. Oh, that's right, because it's for Julian.
Yeah, for Julian, who is the oft-forgotten John Lennon offspring of his marriage to Cynthia, his first wife. His other son, Sean.
Julian's mom.
Yeah, Julian's mom, Cynthia. Of course, John Lennon's other son, Sean, who goes by Ono because he was Yoko Ono's kid.
I think it's Sean Ono Lennon.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
but
I think even John changed his name to John.
Yeah, it's John
Lennon.
Winston Ono Lennon.
Yeah,
Winston's like the most English name possible.
Well, it was Winston Churchill because he was born during the Blitz.
Yeah.
Blitzkrieg. Yeah, the Blitzkrieg Bop.
Yeah. Do you have anything about that track specifically?
No, just that. Oh, yes, actually, one interesting thing. So they recorded several versions of this, but the one that's actually on the album does not include input from John, Paul, or George. It's strings that were performed by others and arranged by George Martin, and vocals from Ringo. Which is really weird.
Different.
But yeah, they did record several versions. They recorded one, and I was trying to find it so that I could bring it up. And I had a hell of a time with it. It's probably on the anthology discs somewhere, but I was looking over that like last night and didn't feel like subjecting my wife to 12 hours of Beatles.
So you keep listening to that one slow song over and over again. It's like, yeah, but this one's different. This is from New York in '72 with a different lineup.
No, like seriously, we'll be in the car like going somewhere, and because normally I keep the radio very low because she and I don't listen to much of the same type of music. But if like a really good Dead song comes on, I'll like crank it, and we'll be like 17 minutes in, and she's like, "Come on, just turn it off." I'm like, well, "Hey, we're almost there." But yeah, but they did record versions. I was trying to find the ones that they had that were recorded more conventionally, the 4-piece band like they did, and I couldn't That doesn't mean that it's not out there. That means that YouTube didn't have it and I'm lazy. But yeah, so the version that you hear does not include any input at all from John Paul or George.
Interesting.
Go figure.
Well, the only other thing for this album, I guess we could touch on for the end would be the singles, or because I don't know that you would tie the singles to this album, but they were during the period. They were right before and during this album, and it would be Revolution, the single version, and then Hey Jude.
Right, which is interesting that didn't end up making the final cut of the record itself.
Right. Maybe they wanted it. Well, because it was also, they performed it first in that special, right? That televised thing. So maybe that's why they kept it as a single, as its own. But they also did that. They did that for Revolution too, but they didn't do it with a big audience.
Right. If you watch that Hey Jude one, it's really funny because you can watch John Lennon's hand get really out of sync. He was apparently going through heroin withdrawals when they were filming it.
Yeah, you see, there's a part I think where you see his face. You see him like he's real like calm and just playing his part. Donnie his head, and all of a sudden you see him go like, oh, because he realized he wasn't paying attention and he missed it. And you see like Paul kind of like look over for a second and like,
dude, what's up?
But then the other part of that music video or whatever you want to call it, the recording, is when the people rush the stage and they are started accumulating, getting closer and encroaching closer and closer to the Beatles. And you can just see like, George and John are kind of in the middle, so they're kind of away from two people getting too close. But you see like Ringo kind of like slunched over, and he's just kind of like, all right. And then Paul, kind of the same thing on the piano. He's like, yeah. It's just like, that's gotta be annoying.
Yeah.
But that and only two more things I got for this one, for the album in general, is I find it interesting that you get Good Night and Hey Jude both compositioned, or not, I don't want to phrase it like that, both written for Julian,
right,
from different Beatles.
Right.
So you have Paul writing Hey Jude for Julian about basically saying, it's about endurance. You're enduring some hard things, and it's kind of what the world is. But you just keep going, and then
take a sad song.
Yeah, and then you get Good Night for Julian, and it's just more of like, I don't know. To me, it's almost more classic, like just you're gonna wrap up your day. This is kind of like just your unwinding song, kind of thing. But I just find it interesting that you get songs written specifically for Julian from each of them, separately.
How old was Julian here? Like as a
five,
kid? Yeah.
5, yeah. But, and then the only other thing I know about the White Album that we haven't talked about yet is the cover. The original concept of the cover was going to be a painting. I think it was by Klaus Voormann. Okay. But it was going to be a drawing or a painting of, you can find it. They did finish it.
Right.
And the album was originally, I think, going to be called A Doll's House or something like that.
That sounds right.
I think that's it. And the painting was like them sitting in like a field, not a field like you can see the whole field, but just like on the ground, and they're all drawn in a more sketched out caricature almost like look, and then Yoko is little and like on John's shoulder or something, and she was on the album cover, and it was just kind of different. I'm pretty sure it was Vorman, but
that's because I know it was someone
close
dating back to the old days, the Hamburg days.
Well, because he did Revolvers.
Yeah, he did Revolver, and I think he have something to do with the Yellow Submarine movie and stuff?
I don't think so.
I could have sworn he did, but I didn't.
I thought that was like,
I only prepared for the White Album.
But yeah, because I think same thing. Like they were kind of in different directions, and so when it came to the album cover, they just did. I guess it just didn't sit well, and so they went with a different artist interpretation and be like, it's going to be a blank white embossed album, and that's it.
I think that's cool. It's just like the simplicity of it, just no complication, just straight.
Yeah.
Boom. That's it.
I will add one last piece of something from me anyway. Mm-hmm. There were promotional pressings of the U.S. release, which was through Capitol, because it was still an Apple record, but it was pressed and distributed by Capitol. And they did, I want to say it was 500 of them that were pressed on pink vinyl. And if you can find them, they're incredibly valuable.
Wow.
So that's they had one up at, to give a plug to someone who's not paying me at least, Forever Young Records, Grand Prairie, Texas. They had a pink vinyl edition. I mean, this has been 6 or 7 years ago in their collector's room. The guy was like, "You can touch it," and I was like, "No, thanks. I don't have insurance for this." But yeah, it's pretty neat. I've seen one in person. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a translucent pink. It almost looks like very weak strawberry lemonade.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe it.
Interesting.
Yeah. But
Didn't know that.
yeah, fun stuff.
Well, again, this is my personal favorite Beatles album.
It's a great album.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. It's fun to listen to, fun to talk about.
Yeah, likewise, man. Well, we've talked plenty.
That we have.
This might need to be a two-parter.
That's okay. It's funny. I told Brad, I was like, there's 30 tracks on this thing.
Yeah.
Like, if this needs to be broken up, like, that's understandable.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
You don't want some Rogan-esque 5-hour, epistle on nothing.
It's never too long. Never.
Yeah, that's true. Well, y'all have anything else to add? Or?
Peace and love, baby.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Here in Hollywood, California, at the Sam Romo Studios.
Right down the street from the Whiskey A Go.
Yeah. There's Clive Davis eating dinner over there.
Wow.
We can see him from the window. Yeah.
And there goes David Crosby.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having us.
Well, yeah. Need to have you back.
Love to.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for listening. For more episodes, visit our website, musicmythpodcast.com, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Goodbye.